Hello, my name is meapanter. I'm a doctor in Australia, and this is now part 2 of a short series on evolution and creation. Is there any way that Christians and scientists can agree with one another, or is evolution and faith a true oxymoron? How is it that we believe in Adam and Eve? Were we there? Was there any historical evidence for it? For their bones? Do we have them? No. It's a faith proposition. How do scientists know that Adam and Eve did not exist? They don't. But the whole story is dismissed out of hand as being the fanatical imaginings of some pre-Mosaic holy man, probably high on drugs. But once more, it lies outside the realm of science. It is a faith proposition. So am I proposing creationism, intelligent design, or evolution? Maybe a combination of all three. I would certainly reject Dawkins' notion that all the natural world we see around us developed and arose completely by chance. As a doctor, although I see potential flaws in the human body, for instance the crossover of the food passage and the windpipe at the epiglottis at the back of the throat, so that food may go into the airway instead of the esophagus and result in choking, asphyxiation and possible death, I don't think I would have designed it like that. And as Sam Harris rightly points out in his monograph, A Letter to a Christian Nation, that the urethra in the male passing right through the prostate gland creates problems for most men of 60 and over, since as the prostate enlarges and as it has a tough non-expansive outer capsule, the pressure as it expands in the older male narrows the soft urethra through which it passes, creating urinary problems. Why could the gland, for instance, not just have rested on the surface of the urethra? However, these aside, overall the human body is beautifully, intricately and delicately made. The gossamer membranes of the lung alveoli, allowing respiratory exchange from the lungs to the red cells. The thousands of kilometers of tubules in the kidney for iron and waste exchange in such a beautiful and compact organ. The billions of color-sensitive, conical-shaped receptors in the retina of the human eye, allowing us to see a variation of 1,000,000 shades of green alone, 1,000 times more sensitive than the most expensive multi-pixelated digital cameras. Such complexity, such beauty, such elegance simply demands a creator. Dawkins knows it. He can argue till he's blue in the face, but his propositions are unreasonable, and most of us know that they are. When we talk of evolution of anything in everyday life, from the humble vacuum cleaner to the motor car or airliner, we know that it has evolved because creative minds and ideas have brought about that evolution. Even if one looks at the most complex computer or software program, or the most intricate of engineering or architectural designs, or the most complex timepiece ever assembled, they are collectively like kids' play compared to the cellular complexity in a single blade of grass. This in its cell has a complex nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes, and other subnucleic cellular structures which absorb light from the sun, combine it with carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and then assemble complex carbohydrate molecules and finally return oxygen into the atmosphere in a process which is known as photosynthesis. And yet not even the most brilliant scientist has got even close to replicating it. St. Paul says in Romans 1 verse 20 that there is enough of God's creation evident all around us so that no one, that is, no one but the willfully spiritually blind, could doubt God's existence. Yes, evolution is compatible with faith. If God's Spirit hovered over the waters at the beginning of time to start fomenting change which resulted in creation, and God's Spirit is the same yesterday, today and forever, that the writer to the Hebrews tells us in chapter 13 verse 8, so God still hovers over his creation today, marred indeed as it is by sin, but only for a period until everything is restored. In the story in the Gospels of Jesus quieting the storm in the Sea of Galilee, when he was woken up, he rebuked the disciples for their lack of faith. He stood in the back of the boat and spoke to the wind and the waves. This is recorded in Matthew 8 verse 26. And Matthew says that immediately there was a great calm, according to the Bible narrative. When Jesus spoke, his entire creation, organic, inorganic, living or dead, listened to him and responded. In order for there to be an immediate calm, profound changes would have had to occur in the atmosphere, on the water and under the water. Furthermore, there was no delay. It happened immediately. These weather-beaten Galilean fishermen knew the terrain, they knew the lake, and they knew the weather. From their experience of a lifetime, they had good reason to be alarmed. Yet the Bible tells us in Matthew 8:27, they marvelled in amazement when the storm suddenly abated, their awed response being, "What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the waves obey him?" In Mark chapter 11, we read a story of a fig tree that for some reason or other Jesus cursed because it had no fruit on it, simply because it was not the right season for figs. And Jesus simply said to it, "May no man eat fruit of you hereafter forever." His disciples were with him and heard him say it to the tree. The next day, when passing the same fig tree, they noticed that this tree had dried up from the roots and was dead. Now, in order for that to happen, God's organic creation had to have listened to what he had to say. And as a consequence, dramatic physical changes occurred in this living system, right down to the molecular and submolecular levels. Jesus thus had complete authority and power over the entire created universe. So if Jesus can speak both to inanimate as well as animate, to living and organic as well as dead and inorganic, and each one of these systems respond, how much more can God speak to an atom or a molecule that he has created, and it will instantly obey him? In Luke 4 verse 39, we read of Jesus visiting the home of Simon Peter, where his mother-in-law was lying sick with a fever. They asked Jesus to help her. The Bible narrative records that Jesus bent over her and rebuked the fever. Immediately it left her, and she got up and began to wait on them. As with all Jesus' healing miracles, whether rebuking fever, healing a paralytic, raising the dead, he was able to speak directly to whatever system was responsible, be it alive or dead, animate or inanimate, organic or inorganic. And not only did the system hear his voice, it responded. Now, to our way of thinking and our approach to scientific investigation, that is quite inexplicable. How can dead, inorganic chemical substances, without brain or breath, or eyes or hearing, possibly hear and respond to the voice of God? Only if one accepts the postulate that God is the creator of all that there is in the universe and has an authority over his creation that we can neither understand nor explain. However, once one accepts this proposition of an all-powerful creative God without any limitations, there is little or no difference to his speaking to the wind and the waves, to a fig tree, to a fevered middle-aged lady, or to an amino acid, telling it to link up and form such and such a protein, or speaking to base pairs to link up to create genes and form a double helical molecule that we call DNA. I would propose that harmful mutations have had their effects in causing disease, deformity, disability or death, and all are phenomena that have occurred subsequent to and as a direct consequence of the fall of men. I would suggest they would not have occurred in the Garden of Eden. But because these effects occur in the realm of the spirit, there is nothing to see or hear or measure, simply an effect which can later be seen and demonstrated. Now, strange and perhaps far-fetched though this may seem, this is what Christians actually believe, or if we do not believe it, we cannot truly call ourselves Christians who believe in an eternal, all-powerful and all-knowing God. St. Paul tells us in Colossians that all things in heaven and earth were created by him, and furthermore with such facility that the billions upon billions, probably without number, of heavenly bodies in our universe are glossed over in a single phrase in Genesis 1:16, he made the stars also. Apparently no big deal to God. This is the incredible, magnificent, awesome and quite unimaginably great God that we worship, and one that Dawkins would like to believe in. The next part will be published in a few minutes' time. Thank you.